If I had to tally every gamble I've taken, number one would be that stock I kept forsaken. And number 500, it's a battle I fight, watching my options burn up in the night. I'm just a cowboy riding on margin calls, holding my breath every time that it falls. But at the top of the list, I'm always scared. A loss feels like fire, man, it's hard to bear. It feels like 30 horses riding in the rain, running wild with no reins, trying to break the chain. Alone on the trail, no guide or light, but I'll keep riding through this fight. I just want a little more, just a little more, a little more. I'm fighting for tonight. I just want a little more, just a little more. I just need a little more time, alright. I just want a little more, just a little more, a little more, and I'll make it through. Just want a little more, just a little more, a little more, and I'll pull through. Got this debt collector knocking at my door, says I'm overdue, but I've been down before. I've seen these losses, heard that sound, but I keep running just to turn it around. That fire's burning faster than I know. Stock's crashing, but I'll keep it slow. The only hose left is my broker's line. He says, hold on son, you'll be just fine. It feels like 30 horses riding in the rain, running wild with no reins, trying to break the chain. Alone on the trail, no guide or light, but I'll keep riding through this fight. I just want a little more, just a little more, a little more. I'm fighting for tonight. I just want a little more, just a little more. I just need a little more time, alright. I just want a little more, just a little more, a little more, and I'll make it through. Just want a little more, just a little more, a little more, and I'll pull through. Just want a little more, just a little more, a little more. I'm fighting for tonight. I just want a little more, just a little more. I just need a little more time, alright. I just want a little more, just a little more, a little more, and I'll make it through. Just want a little more, just a little more, a little more, and I'll pull through. Just want a little more, just a little more, a little more. I'm fighting for tonight. Just want a little more, just a little more. I just need a little more time, alright. Just want a little more, just a little more, a little more, and I'll make it through. Just want a little more, just a little more, a little more, and I'll pull through.
Oh brother, oh brother, oh brother. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome back to another episode of the Matt Kohrs Show, where I am pleased to say the market is rocketing higher and higher and higher. In fact, right now in real time, the S&P 500 is up 3%, the Nasdaq's up almost 4%. You have Bitcoin sitting at 104,000. You have Apple up 6.5%. You have Tesla up almost 8%. You have Rumble. Everything's up, folks. Everything is up. So I hope you are very excited for your tendies. Well, I hope you swung calls over the weekend. I know there were some people in here on Friday yelling at me that I need to be getting out of my bullish positions and how could I possibly not be going short right now. And it looks like the degenerate decision to swing this all long paid off. It definitely paid off. I swung about $60,000 worth of calls over the weekend. High risk, high reward type of a situation. Obviously, the talks could have easily fallen apart and I could have lost all 60K. And instead, I just took a big swing. And apparently, we hit a bit of a grand slam, hoping to be up, I don't know, about 100%, maybe 60, 75K at market open. So we're going to find out. But yes, I was swinging SPY calls, Q calls, and Tesla calls. SPY up 30%, Q's up 4%, Tesla up 8%. Feels good to be right. Feels good to be me, so I'm very excited to see how this day goes. Obviously, we're going to be going over all the news of what's happening, what's not happening, but here's the TLDR. Over the weekend, we had U.S. trade representatives, China trade representatives meeting in Geneva, and apparently it all went well. We have the initial steps of a trade deal. Basically, everything's calming down for the next 90 days. For the next 3 months, we have this tentative deal where everyone's lowering the pressure from the system. We're lowering the tariffs on China. They're lowering the tariffs on us. And the entire idea here is calming things down. And in this next 3 months, in the next quarter, effectively, to come up with a more structured trade deal. So right now, obviously, these are very positive steps forward. And that's exactly why the entire equity market, crypto market, options market, futures market, this is why everything is ripping to kingdom come right now. So we're going to be going over all of that. Someone says Rumble working for anyone. On my end, it is showing that it's working. So I would recommend, I'll just double check for you. It says it's offline. Well, hang on. This whole thing says I'm offline, but it even says I'm offline on YouTube. Whoa. Timeout, team. Nope. Never mind. It says it's all good. I just had to give it a reload myself, but it shows that the stream is going through to both YouTube and Rumble. So obviously, wherever you're watching from, hi, it should be working on both. It should be working on both. But if there's any issues, obviously, let me know. So the one thing I wanted to check before I really get into the show today is I'm hearing rumblings of Trump speaking. Shaking up the U.S. drug industry, the AP. All right, hang on. What time is this supposed to be happening at? 9:30. So at market open, there is going to be apparently some sort of press conference involving Trump and RFK, and that was another big announcement over the weekend. Not only did we get the update of what's going on with the U.S. and China, we got some new news related to Ukraine and Russia, and they're going to be meeting this Thursday. And then we also got an update related to, I suppose, Trump's plan of how he wants to approach the pharmaceutical / drug industry. So they're going to be speaking right at market open at 9:30, which is going to give me the perfect amount of time to get you guys prepped up for the day. Let me take these off so I can actually see something, because technically we're not seeing the blinding green quite yet, so I don't need the protective eyewear. But let me switch over to this just so you guys can see what is up. Obviously, as soon as the futures market opened last night at 6 p.m., giant gap up, grinded forward, and then at 3, it was basically kind of confirmed by the U.S. and by China more of the details of the current deal, and obviously the market really liked it. Same thing in the NASDAQ here, gap up. Then we got the announcement at 3 a.m. of like the details of what's happening, and obviously we continued higher. So right now, across the board, the bulls are currently in control, but also the market's not open yet. You never know how much profit taking there is going to be, how much profit taking there isn't going to be. So let's just do our best to realize what in the world is going on. What is this? Kindly MD shares rip 500% higher after merger with Trump Crypto Advisors Bitcoin investment company. What in the world? Anyway, Dow futures rocket higher by 1,100 points after the U.S.-China agreed to cut tariffs. So U.S.-China to slash tariffs and step back from decoupling brink. That is the TLDR of what's going on right now. The tensions in the whole trade war, but specifically between the U.S. and China, they are calming down, and obviously the market is really liking it. So why did we gap up, grind, and then really push? Well, it's when we finally got the details. We have reached an agreement on a 90-day pause and substantially moved down the tariff levels. Both sides on reciprocal tariffs will move their tariffs down 115%. You can hear from Greer is on the left. He is the U.S. trade rep. And then on the right, we have the Treasury Secretary, Bissett.
We have reached an agreement on a 90-day pause and substantially move down the tariff levels. Both sides on the reciprocal tariffs will move their tariffs down 115%. We had very robust discussions. Both sides showed great respect. It was a chance for me to meet the Chinese delegation. The vice premier I had previously had only a video call with. Ambassador Jameson was familiar with two of the other leaders on the delegation from his previous time. So there was very good personal interaction. Both countries represented their national interests very well. We concluded that we have shared interest, and we both have an interest in balanced trade. The U.S. will continue moving towards that.
All right, so even though it was awkward in terms of the fact that he sounded like a robot, if you listen to what the robot had to say overall, yesterday we got the news that some sort of agreement was made, and then you could see they were doing this from Geneva, which is why the time zones were off. But regardless, around 3 in the morning, we got more information of what that agreement was, and obviously the market is telling you very much that it likes it. Everything is ripping. U.S.-China breakthrough sends tech and chip stocks soaring. Treasury yields soar as U.S. and China agree to slash tariffs. U.S. and China agree to slash tariffs for 90 days in a major trade breakthrough. The U.S. and China on Monday agreed to suspend most tariffs on each other's goods in a move that shows a thawing of trade tensions between the world's two largest economies. The deal means reciprocal tariffs between both countries will be cut from 125% to 10%. The U.S.'s 20% duties on Chinese imports relating to fentanyl will remain in place, meaning that the total tariffs on China stand at 30%. We had very productive talks, and I believe that the venue here, Lake Geneva, added great equanimity to what was a very positive process. So across the board, and this is all being mirrored by, if you look at any of the speaking heads, not only from the U.S., but also from China, it's being mirrored by them. So it's not one of these awkward situations where we're saying one thing and they're saying the different thing. Obviously, they had planned releases, and we are very much echoing each other, which is why really all global markets, not just in the U.S., are going higher and higher and higher. A huge win for the bulls. Markets soar on U.S.-China deal as Wall Street sees more upside. The Trump administration announced it had reached a trade agreement with China following trade negotiations in Switzerland over the weekend. Obviously, if you decided to swing calls over the weekend, congrats, you're a degenerate like me, and it paid big. Yeah, there was a fair reason to swing puts, I suppose. Your bet was basically that the trade talks were going to fall apart, and in reality, there was probably more of a likelihood of that happening than anything else. I honestly don't even know if on Friday, even if you had insider information, if it was like a guaranteed play, because the talks played out over the weekend, and on Saturday at one point there were rumblings that the Chinese delegates had walked out at one point, and then apparently it was reported that it was just lunch and no one knew what was going on. It was a high risk, high reward, high octane situation, and you could see that it broke in the favor of the bulls. Under the deal, so-called reciprocal tariffs will drop from over 100% to 10% on both sides for 90 days. So basically, we have 3 months to figure this out. The Trump administration will keep the 20% fentanyl-related tariffs on China in place, so basically 10% versus 30%. Global stocks rallied after the terms of the deal were announced Monday morning, with market watchers expecting more positive developments for the markets on the back of the news. So I do want to be clear, and I'm going to explain this better right as we're doing the price prep in the morning here. Be careful in terms of profit taking. So when we see large gaps like this, whether to the upside or to the downside, it is not uncommon by any means to see a reversal right at market open, because people want to lock in their gains. There are a lot of people who had bullish positions, whether it was in futures, options, or equities, whether they got into it Friday or earlier, that are going to see this massive gap up, and they're going to say, you know what, I'm happy with this bag. They're going to secure it. They're going to take the money off the table, and you're going to naturally run into aggressive selling relative to buying. Is it a guarantee? But absolutely, don't be surprised. It's not guaranteed, but it is a common thing. So with that being said, obviously, obviously, just know what your trading plan is. In fact, you have about 27 minutes to figure this out, whether you're a day trader or a swing trader. Tell yourself what your plan is. Are you going to try to swing through this and maybe let the first 10, 20, 30 minutes play out and pay attention to the options flow? Or is your plan just to say, no, this is my number, and if you see that right at market open, lock it in? I'm not here to tell you what is right or wrong, because we're all different. We all have different personalities. We all have different account sizes. We all have different goals. We all have different life stories of what you're trying to do this for. So there's no proper answer here. I'm just saying, before the market is open, before emotions escalate to as high as they could possibly be, write down, like literally go through the process of writing down what your trading plan is today, and then do everything in your power today to actually stick to that plan. That's the best way to handle it, especially in high octane situations like we are living through right now. Okay, so since those announcements, we actually got a further update from Bissett. U.S. Treasury Secretary Bissett says that U.S. can always go back to April 2nd levels for tariffs on China. Bissett says that it is implausible for tariffs on China to go below 10%, which is what we're hearing from Lutnick and Trump. We heard it from Lutnick, I believe, on Saturday, and then Trump also on Saturday or Sunday, that even the best deals are going to have a minimum floor of 10%. No one's really going to get somehow a better deal where they're not tariffed. He also said current tariff levels are the floor and April 2nd levels are the ceiling. So kind of boxing us in there between 10% and whatever it was, where I forget even the max. At one point we were up to 145 or whatever it is. So this is a little bit more clarification. You could see that came out around 8 a.m. So obviously past that, the 3 a.m. announcement that we were getting out of Geneva. So this is the big deal. This is the big news. This is mainly explaining why everything is so bullishly green this morning. But you might notice that one sector is red. And the red sector, does anyone have a good guess? The red sector this morning is pharmaceuticals, because Trump is cutting prices. So that's good for us, the consumers, but not so good for them as a business. My next truth will be the most important and impactful I have ever issued. Enjoy. So he put that out yesterday afternoon around 2:30, and a little bit after that, his most impactful one ever is relating to the world of prescription drugs. For many years, the world has wondered why prescription drugs and pharmaceuticals in the U.S. were so much higher in price than they are in any other nation, sometimes being 5 to 10 times more expensive than the same drug manufactured in the exact same laboratory or plant by the same company. It has always been difficult to explain, the very embarrassing, because in fact there were no correct or rightful answers. The particular industry would say for years that it was R&D costs, and that all these costs were and would be for no reason whatsoever borne by the suckers of America alone. And really, the TLDR is down here. They are speaking announced the tomorrow morning White House 9 a.m. I believe it got kicked to 9:30. I do have the stream. I just want to double check that they haven't started yet. So not at 9 a.m. I guess we are going to be hearing from RFK and Trump at 9:30. So kicked by 30 minutes. I will be signing one of the most consequential executive orders in our country's history. Prescription drug and pharmaceutical prices will be reduced almost immediately by 30 to 80%. They will rise throughout the world in order to equalize and, for the first time in many years, bring fairness to America. I will be instituting a most favored nations policy, hereby the U.S. will pay the same price as the nation that pays the lowest price anywhere in the world. Our country will finally be treated fairly, and our citizens' healthcare costs will be reduced by numbers never even thought of before. Additionally, on top of everything, the U.S. will save trillions of dollars. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. So this was an additional update on top of the whole U.S.-China thing, on top of the whole Russia-Ukraine thing. We got this specific to the world of prescription drugs and pharmaceuticals. And I guess the other thing I just keep alluding to, Zelensky says he's ready to talk peace, challenges Putin to show up. Ukrainian president said he would be waiting for Putin at peace talks proposed by Russian president in Istanbul. So this whole situation is getting a little bit strange, because Zelensky, president of Ukraine, is posturing that, hey, I'm willing to do these talks, but first we have to have a ceasefire. And Putin is saying, I'm willing to have these talks, but we're not getting a ceasefire. Then also another update from over the weekend is Trump was in the middle of it, and he's basically saying, no, Zelensky, just go talk. You don't need a ceasefire. The rumor mill is basically saying Trump is putting pressure on Zelensky to attend the talks anyway. And then this morning, they are, but he's kind of switching it up, and he's like, oh, okay, I will, but you have to come to Istanbul. So this is, out of all these three things going on right now, I'm actually more worried about this one falling apart than the whole pharmaceutical drug thing or the whole U.S.-China trade deal thing, because neither side, Zelensky or Putin at this moment, is seeming, they don't seem willing to really concede anything right now. So this might be like, I don't know. This is just getting into a weird game of military game theory, and I don't think Ukraine really has that much to play with, and yet they're acting like they somehow have pocket aces, and it's becoming a confusing situation, and we're going to find out more about this later this week. So if the meeting were to take place, it would be this Thursday. So that's where we're probably going to find out more. Maybe Friday we find out if the talks even happened, if they did happen, if they went well, if they don't go well. So anyway, later this week is when we're going to have to return to that. But between now and then, of course, there's a lot going down. So today, Monday, we know Trump is going to be speaking. It's scheduled right now. Let me just double check. I want to make sure we're not missing anything. Let me reload this. So initially it was scheduled for 9, but now it looks like it's going to be starting at 9:30, and this is going to be more of RFK and Trump and talking about prescription drugs. But of course, the reporters are going to be asking about what's going on with U.S. and China, so we got to pay attention to that. So that's going down this morning. Tomorrow morning, we get an inflation report, the CPI report, Consumer Price Index. Wednesday, for my energy traders, crude oil inventories. Thursday, we get PPI, another inflation report. We get retail sales, and the chairman of the Fed, Jerome Powell, will be speaking. So Thursday is very much going to be a busy day, and that's also the day where maybe there's a talk between Zelensky and Putin. And then on Friday, to wrap up the week, we're going to get the normal consumer sentiment. And of course, at any point this week, we might be getting further details to the trade war, not only with U.S. and China. But remember, we're kind of all waiting. Is something going to get announced with India pretty soon? Is something going to get announced with Vietnam? Is something going to get announced with Japan? We already know that 2 have been kind of announced, both the UK and now China, like we're kind of halfway there, at least some positive developments. But there's many other countries that maybe we get good news, maybe we get bad news. So at any moment in time, you got to pay attention to that. Earnings season is pretty much over, but there still might be some that you care about. For example, after the market closes today, Hertz and Plug. Tomorrow, JD, Honda, Under Armour. I don't think really anyone cares about those. Sony on Wednesday. Tencent, that obviously going to be a bit better now with the trade deal. Jack in the Box, Cisco, Alibaba, another Chinese company that's probably now going to do very well. Walmart, Kava, John Deere. Those are all going down this week. Like I said, we're pretty much getting to the end of earnings season. A high majority based on market cap of the S&P 500 is already reported, but there's still a couple out there that you might individually care about. So make sure you are watching that. If you haven't already, sign up for the newsletter, macquarie.locals.com. It's always been free, always will be free. It's 100% free. I break down the previous week, highlight what to look forward to in the upcoming week. I give you the earnings and then a little, just the ones that I think you might care about the most, a little cheat sheet on all the major macroeconomic events to be paying attention to. And then probably most useful is I give you the seasonality of each individual day. I'll be the first to admit it, in the month of May, it's not that exciting because historically, as in over the past 3 decades, May sometimes favors the Bulls, sometimes favors the Bears. So when you net it out, it's kind of a neutral month. Once again, it doesn't have to be choppy. It has been bullish, it has been bearish, but also then there's sometimes where May has just done nothing. But anyway, historically, today was doing nothing. Past couple of years getting hit, but I have a feeling today, when we fast forward to next year, there's going to be a nice big spike up. Tomorrow, same thing, maybe slightly bullish. Wednesday is definitely bullish. Thursday a bit more, and then Friday leaning bullish. So it's not the strongest seasonal period. Obviously, last month it was a lot more exciting to pay attention to it. But if you look at the 2 months of May and June, seasonality just doesn't really happen to come into play that much. So anyway, check it out, macquarie.locals.com. It's always been free, always will be free. Comes to your email inbox every single Sunday morning to better prepare you for the upcoming week. Speaking of better prepare, okay, right now let's just see where we're at. Let me reload this. I just want to see what the current spot price is. All right, so we are currently trading at 5,833, which means we are trading all the way up roughly where my cursor is. So these are the key levels as of this morning. I know it's a little bit weird to look at this just because there's no price up here. We haven't traded up here, so it's not looking at like we're looking at highs or lows or previous closes. We're kind of in no man's land because we're getting a gap up in excess of 3%. So as of this morning, looking at all the structuring of what's happening with the current just the gamma levels, the major open interest levels, and various other influences. In my personal opinion, these are the key levels of the day for all my zero DTE traders. This white box, as it always is my transitional zone. Above it is bullish, below it is bearish. Once again, speaking on a zero DTE perspective. And then obviously within that transitional zone, we just have the very important psychological and open interest level of 5,800. So the zone itself is from 5,820 all the way down to 5,775. On a short-term basis, if the bulls could hold above this, above 5,820, once again, right now we are at 5,831, so we are above it. I would be looking for the bull case scenario to play out. First target, 5,850. Second target, 5,880. Third target of 5,900. Of course, if things go bonkers today, yes, we can go higher. Actually, let me show you one of the coolest things I see going on. You guys might think that you're a degenerate. We have players in the market right now who are swinging all the way up here. 5,900, 5,925, and 5,950. I mean, this is in excess of like these are long calls. The fact that they're orange means they're calls. The fact that they're on the left side pointing out means that they are long calls. This is like legit bullish stuff, which means we have a lot of negative gamma up there. So it's one of these weird self-fulfilling prophecies where the closer we get to these levels, the increased likelihood of us actually going higher. So this will be basically some sort of giant magnet where it's almost like a black hole. The closer you get to it, the more likely you are to actually get sucked into it. And like I said, we're talking about like those would be the reach targets of the day all the way up here. Now, of course, I have no crystal ball. I have no guarantee. We could get caught up a bit earlier. We might get smacked, or we might get falling into the GEX-DEX transition zone, and then it might chop around in here. And then also in the bear case, especially if there's a ton of profit taking out of the gate, we might get kicked out of it and kind of go this way. That's not my base assumption for the day. I think my base assumption for the day is a little bit of profit taking at market open. I'm hoping that this support at 5,820 holds. I really don't want to dip into this zone at all. In reality, I wouldn't mind if we base off of this and then actually start that rip all the way up, and then it would be fun to have some sort of power hour rip from maybe like 5,900 all the way up to 950, because once again, that is a lot of negative gamma. Whoa. Someone just made a huge trade at 6,000, like in real time. 10,000 share. What the fuck is this person doing? That's a brand new position. Like it literally got created in real time right here. Someone just, I thought this was a big position, 1,000. Someone just did 10,000 long calls at 6,000. And it expires today. Dude, we are setting up for something crazy right now. That literally just hit the tape. Like we all just witnessed it together with 5 minutes to go. Holy shit. That is a 99 percentile trade. As in happens less than 1% of the time. 10,000 long. Look at what that just did to the gamma up there. It changed the gamma. Holy fuck, team. Buckle up, Buttercup. Buckle up, Buttercup. Today's gonna get interesting. It's gonna get real interesting. Now, before that market goes dingity ding ding ding, a very special shout out to today's stream sponsor, Public. If you are not on Public, if you are not trading on Public, you're a crazy person, in my humble opinion. Why? Why would I call you a crazy person? Why is that my personal thought? Well, if you're an options trader or an inspiring options trader, this is the only brokerage that you get paid to trade options. There are no commission fees, there are no per contract fees, and in fact, you earn a rebate for every single contract you trade. So for example, that person who just bought all those calls, they would have earned a rebate on every single contract, whether it's a call or put, whether you're buying or selling. Doesn't matter. If you are trading an options contract, you get a rebate, and there's a tier system to it. As in, the more you trade, the more rebates you're going to get. It's just going to start picking up. If you want to start off on a higher rebate tier, that's exactly why you should use the link. It is pinned to the top of chat. It's in the description of the video, but you're going to start off at a higher tier, as in you're going to start off making more money more rapidly than you would. Now, of course, they have stock trading. There's no payment for order flow. They have crypto trading. They have high yields accounts. They have retirement accounts. They have bond trading. Actually, some of the best UI UX in the game for bond trading, especially for retail traders. This is a one-stop shop for what you need. I highly recommend it. Pinned to the top of chat, in the description of the video. It is by far my favorite place to trade options. And when you start seeing your rebates add up, I mean, I think I've already made $6,000 or $7,000 in rebates just from trading. I would have done it anyway, that I'm like clearly would not be getting on any other brokerage because no other brokerage offers this. So there's very much a reason why I trust Public with over $250,000 of my own dollars. It's because it's simply the best brokerage in the game. So if you're signed up, check it out. If you haven't done it yet, highly recommend it. Like I said, it is free to download. It is free to sign up, and make sure you use that link pinned to the top of chat and in the description of the video, because that's going to allow you to start off on a higher tier. And I also kind of wanted to show you this, not only to just give you a subtle brag, but just to see what we're going to be at market open. As you can see, I have Tesla calls, Q calls, and SPY calls. So I'm hoping that this is around 350,000 when it opens. So we're about 275 right now. And in less than 2 minutes, we're going to find out how much my degenerate swing over the weekend's really going to pay off. So 274, I'm hoping, back of the napkin math, I'm hoping it's around 350 at market open. I'm hoping. But I guess I really shouldn't be bragging. If anything, I should be saying thank you to Public for being a partner of the show. And I should also be thanking all of you guys for signing up and using Public. Trust me, out of all of these other brokerages, and I've been in this game for a while, there are not many out there that care about their clients, you guys, the retail traders, as much as Public does. Most of these other ones care about their clients, the market makers, because that's where they're getting paid, while Public does it way, way differently. And obviously, I applaud them for that. So once again, check them out. And with all of that being said, let's do it. I'm switching it up. Another one that I just want to call out, had a great day on Friday, gained 19.5%. Rumble's up another 7.6% this morning. So a little bit of craziness going on over there, but we have a lot deeply in the green today. Meta's up 6%, Nvidia's up 4.5%, Palantir's up 2.9%, Apple's up 6%. There's a lot of green. A lot of green. Matt, tell us what you think about Ripple. I think Ripple is a piece of shit crypto meme coin that if it's a meme and you admit that, great, trade it and play the volatility and make a bunch of money. But if you think it's an investment, I think you should just better learn what makes a good investment. As I said at the start, do not be surprised of profit taking at market open. When you see gigantic gap ups like this, it is not abnormal for people just to want to lock in their money. So please don't let this freak you out. Dingity ding ding ding. The world's largest casino is now open. Best of luck to all. Play responsibly, and if not, have fun. Folks, we've seen this a million times. If you're sitting here saying, why is it red? Well, you just got to pay attention a little bit more, because when you have giant gap ups, people look at their gains and they say, yo, that sounds pretty cool to lock in. So that's what they do. I mean, I'll let this load here. Let me reload this. You're going to see some profit taking. Come on. Actually, not even that much. There's a little bit of profit taking for the first 20 seconds. People waiting for market open just to smash it. But yeah, I just wouldn't freak out about this. Just because you see red for the first minute, of course, it could end up being a bad day, but it doesn't necessarily mean it has to. If anything, excuse me, we're just bringing us, it really is just bringing the market to that first support level of the day right here at 58.20. I would love for this to hold. If we keep going, I'd be watching 5800, but I'm hoping it could pull a very quick U-turn right out of this, build a nice foundation right here. I honestly wouldn't mind if for the first 10-20 minutes we just base here and then we actually push to 5,850. So this is what I'm watching. This is my transitional zone on a 0 DTE basis. Of course, if we go below 5,775, then I think things could be a little bit suspect on a short-term basis. But we're in here. Remember, in here, it is that chop zone. It is that transitional zone. It is not bullish. It is not bearish. The market maker influence is pretty much neutral, and they're just waiting to see really who has the upper hand. Not liking how much Tesla's coming down. I liked it way better above 322. Remember, there's that giant gamma node on Tesla all the way up at 330. But quite a bit of profit taking out of the gate. How's mine looking? 346, a nice $72,000 gain. And that's obviously after getting hit for the first 2 minutes. So if I got out right at market open, this was probably closer to 90,000 if I just had to roughly guess. But as you can see, absolutely murdering it, up 182%, up 127%, and up 92%. So 28K, 28K, and 20,000. Not a bad day. Not a bad day. 56, 66, 66 net. That's a nice jump in the portfolio. A nice jump in the portfolio. I know, I don't even need to look over at chat. I know that there's going to be people screaming, "Take your money, take your money." Hey, you don't make big money by getting out the second you see a little bit of green. If you are a trend following trader the way I am, you have to follow the trend. You're not a trend following trader if you're following the trend only when it's going against you and you're like, maybe it comes back, and then the second it goes in your favor, you're like, you know what? I'm just going to take my money. That's not trend following. I don't know what to tell you. If you want to be a trend following trader, sometimes you have to just look at the green, but if it keeps going in your way, you ride it and ride it and ride it. And for me, because if I had shorter expiration, if these positions were expiring today or this week or something like that, of course I would be taking my money. But my expiration isn't until May 23rd. So not only is it not this week, but it's at the end of next week. I have 10 full trading days here before I really have to do anything. So I just kind of feel no pressure. Like, I have a lot of time. So if I'm looking at something where I'm like, oh, I have 10 calendar days or 10 trading days to play this off, I'm not going to let a 2-minute movement freak me out. That just doesn't make sense if you ask me. But I get it. I know that some people, they see a little bit of green and they just freak out and they assume that they have to take it. And hey, if that works for you, if you are net ahead and continually making profits, great. But if you're a person who you're taking your profits way too early and yet you're always taking those sizable losses, you're not net ahead. So you got to change something. So, hey, you got to find what works for you. This works for me. Obviously, it works for me. So I'm just going to keep just wash, rinse, repeat. What works for me, it works for me. I have a question. I want to pull out some money out of my portfolio for cash. I have a lot of cost averaging purchases. Should I sell the lower cost ones for the gains and the higher cost ones for losses, but cash or balance of the two? I have a lot of cost averaging purchases. Just talk to a tax person. That's going to be kind of dependent on where you are. Like, there's no perfect general blanket answer for that. It's not the same for everyone. You got 204 move on SPY. Don't you take profits? You go to 2 and you don't take profits? Correct. You're finally understanding it. Folks, just because you go up, just because you see green doesn't mean, oh, you got to take it. That's just not how it works. Oh, hang on. Oops. Hello. All right. I do have this. We have an empty podium as of right now. I assume they're going to be speaking. I assume they are going to be speaking soon. All right. I know you guys can't hear anything yet, and there's nothing to hear because right now it's just like the weird chatter of the reporters in the background. But I have the volume on in my headphones just so when they get going, we're not going to miss it. But anyway, Trump holds press conference with Health Secretary RFK. It was scheduled for 9 a.m. Then they moved it to 9:30, and now we are just kind of waiting. They're going to be signing some executive orders. Those are all the fancy pens. I guess we have some water and something over here. Prices, probably some prices of drugs. So we will be listening to that. Not necessarily like, I mean, maybe you do or don't care about the actual pharmaceutical update. I think what's going to be really interesting and impactful is going to be more so of the questions that are going to be asked from the reporters about the newest trade deal between the U.S. and China. So they're definitely going to be asking that. So I'm just going to wait. Hey, Matt, top of the morning to you. Do you actually say what the deal was or the deal maybe with China? Yep, we've already gone over that in detail. Obviously, why do people say see green, take green? Because they suck at trading? That's pretty much your basic answer of why they would say that. There's a lot of there's a lot of stupid sayings in the market that actually don't help you. For example, one of the most popular sayings is no one ever went broke taking profits. Yes, many people have gone broke taking profits. For example, let's say you have a strategy that when you're wrong, you lose $100, and when you're right, you make $100. Well, if all of a sudden you see a little bit of green and you're up $20 and you take it, that's not going to be enough of return on the positive winning trades to pay off your losing trades. If you're continually kneecapping yourself way too early, you're not going to be able to pay the bill for the times that you take those full unit losses. So there's a lot of sayings in the market. See a green, take green. No one ever went broke taking profits. These are all mathematically stupid. Like, it is a surefire way for you to lose in the game of active trading. It is without a doubt a way for you to lose in the game of active trading. And time again, it doesn't matter the day, the week, the month, the quarter, the year. It doesn't matter the regime of the market, what you're trading. Retail traders always just get buffaloed into doing the things that are clearly disadvantageous for them. It is just clearly disadvantageous for them. So, whatever. I'm not your mom. I'm not in control of your money. You can do what you think is best. I'm going to do what I think is best and just move on from there. Do you not think XRP is good anymore? I never thought it was good. Ripple, or specifically XRP from the start, has always been like dog shit. It was arguably the first meme coin, and whatever, you can make money off trading active meme coins. I'm in no way saying you can't make money off of it. But what I'm saying is, if you look at it as an investor, you're stupid. If you're looking at it as something to actively trade because it has range and liquidity and exciting movements, okay, yeah, have at it. Yes, I will. You can make money. But if you think that XRP is somehow the future of currency swaps, you're actually a stupid person. Like, actually a stupid person. The saying is nobody ever lost money taking profits, and that is true. No, it's not. Based on the basic math that I literally just explained to you. Without a doubt, that is a stupid saying, and I actually just already gave you the example. No one ever lost money taking profits. Yes, what you care about, you're doing this for the marathon that is trading. And if you take your profits too early based on what your system or your strategy is telling you to do, if you're taking it too early, yes, you can lose money in the long term, because if your trade calls for you to make $100, but you keep taking profits at 20, that the delta of $80 that you're missing out on, well, you very much need that. You're very much going to need that for the trades that were the $100 losers. So, if you took profits, you did not lose money. Okay. This is just my daily reminder that some people are actually too fucking stupid to trade. I get that your name is Higher Lows and you somehow have a view of yourself to be a trader with a name like that. But I'm telling you right now, you're not a trader, and you're actually too fucking dense to understand what is like being said right now. So highly recommend whatever money is in your account, switch it over to a long-term investment account, buy the overall market, and come back in 2 to 3 decades, and you're going to have a lot more money than you would, because I don't know. I don't know if you were dropped as a child. I don't know what's going on, but it's always weird when like 99% of the chat can understand a basic math concept, and then there's like that one person who's just shouting, and they're like, no, I saw green, I took green, I gotta make money. You can't help everyone. When I first started streaming this, I very much wanted to, like, if I saw one person not getting a concept, I cared about that, and I cared about it a lot, and I very much wanted to help them. I very much wanted to assist them. But at a certain point, it just gets beaten out of you. It really does. It just becomes far easier to tell the stupid, dumb people that they're not going to do well in this. So just quit. I don't know. Trading's not for everyone. You know how, like, when you're growing up and, like, in the participation trophy culture world, people are like, yeah, you could do anything if you put your mind to it. That's not true. It's not true. I'm never going to be in the NBA. I'm never going to be like some PhD physicist. A lot of people aren't going to be traders. Certain people, you're cut out for certain things, and you should find the thing where It overlaps your personal interest and your natural skill set. And a lot of people do not have the natural skill set for trading because it takes a weird combination of internal discipline, which is arguably the more difficult side, and then like a basic understanding of math. But in this world, especially on the interwebs, you see people who lack both. They lack the intelligence side and the emotional control side as well. And hey, whatever, that's life. I lack all the things that are necessary to be in the NBA. I lack all the things that are necessary to be a kindergarten teacher. We're not all cut out to do the same thing. We are not all cut out to do the same thing. And we are still awkwardly just waiting for this. They actually cut the sound. Why are these always so late right now? I mean, am I losing my mind? I swear he said 9 a.m. And here we are at 9:40. Yeah. I am pleased to announce that tomorrow morning in the White House at 9 a.m., I will be signing one of the most consequential. I guess technically he didn't give us the time zone. So maybe he meant 9 a.m. Mountain Time or something like that. But okay, I'm not officially losing my mind. I knew we were told 9 at one point. All right. So obviously we are not holding the top of the transitional zone, but we did sell off to the next one, 5,800. That is a key psychological level. Yes, if you look at the DOM, you're going to see that there's a lot of sitting orders there. Key technical level, key psychological level, key trade level of the day, and also key open interest level. So there might be an opportunity for a bounce here. If we do bounce, we're not necessarily out of the woods because we could get easily rejected at the top of this transition zone. So I'll be looking for this to hold, but if it does hold and we start to bounce, of course, I am hopeful that it keeps going, but I'm also mindful of the fact that we could easily get rejected right there. Quite a bit of profit taking going on thus far today. The Mag 7 popped for the first 3 minutes and then kind of grinded up till 9:41, but you could see the place for this Friday on the Mag 7, the combination of Apple, Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Tesla. We've had profit taking for after the first 3 minutes. From 9:33 until now, we are seeing a downswing in the delta on the major tech plays. And then looking at the SPY is actually stronger than the price would have you believe, which is another little piece of the puzzle that is making me a bit more optimistic for a bounce off of 5,800. Matt, I would love for you to look at CWST and URTY. I mean, I could write them down, and if I get to it, I get to it. CWST and URTY. I don't really know anything about them, but I'd be looking right here. This is a key level. This is also a great example of why you should be paying attention to SPX over SPY. If you want to trade SPY, have at it. Like I have no issue with that. But in terms of key pivotal levels, SPX is going to tell you more information than SPY. For example, we can see that we're bouncing off perfectly 5,800. But on the SPY, that's a random ass level, 578.50. You wouldn't know how pivotal that random 50-cent level is until you realize it is perfectly aligning with 5,800 over here. So like I said, if you want to trade SPY and represent your thoughts on the market via that ETF, great. But in terms of the levels you should be paying attention to, obviously look at the index itself. Definitely look at the index itself. It's just a much more popular product. When you look at the big players, like it's just a lot more traded. There's a lot more actual big institutional order flow, hedge fund order flow, insurance order flow. They're trading SPX. They're not trading SPY. SPY is, of course, still very, very popular, but I'm just saying the comparison through the two, SPX does end up dwarfing SPY. So that's always why I'm looking at the levels here, because you're going to see things of like, wow, that's massively important, while on SPY, that's just like a random 50-cent bounce. You're just like, oh, we bounced off 50, 78. Like, it wouldn't really jump out to you as being so incredibly important. Right now, we're actually seeing the SPY flow get stronger. People are closing out puts, and they're actually starting to get into a couple calls, but we're only 15 minutes into the day, so we don't have the most data. The Mag 7 not selling off. I actually thought, for price to look like this, I actually thought we would be seeing Delta take a nosedive, but we're simply not, which once again is backing up like really my core thought right now that I think we might be bouncing off of this level 5,800, but who knows when we're just also, what? This is a very dangerous world. We're going to protect our citizens like never before. A golden dome for America? What fucking graphics are we rocking right now? Get this camera out of the way, brother. Biden's bad drug price deal. Dude, we're getting a golden dome for America? A golden dome for America? Look at that. Just this beautiful golden dome protecting us from random naval attacks off the west coast of Mexico, apparently. What a graphic. What a freaking graphic. Just so you guys know, there's no audio coming through on this quite yet. We're just all awkwardly waiting to see either what they do or don't have to say. We're just waiting. The Golden Dome. It's the Iron Dome's cousin. It's like the cooler, older brother. Yeah, it's like one thing to be the Iron Dome, but this is the Golden Dome. Well, now I'm even more excited to find out what in the world this talk could be about. I love how the AP guy just like zoomed in on it. He's like, yo, the people are going to love this Golden Dome. They're going to love this Golden Dome. All right, I would be very, very happy for this to be the low of the day, and we base here, and then we just rip. I want it to base off 5,800. We go up to 5,820. We have a little bit of a pullback, put in a higher low, and then we rip, and I want to see push all the way up to 5,850. I have no clue if that's going to happen. I'm just saying that would be a pretty amazing trade setup on the day if that's how it plays out. So once again, a little bit of mystic Matt right now. I am looking for this bounce off of 5,800. Push up here, a rejection, a higher low, a push, a higher low somewhere in here, and then a push all the way to 5,850. I would love that to be the morning session. I would love that. That would be such an easy trade setup. And if that does happen, the 10-minute would be saving itself right here. This is the S&P 500 futures market pushing to the bottom side of its EMA cloud. A nice bounce right off of that. Same thing on the NASDAQ. The 5-minute is bearish, but the 5 is bearish, 10 is testing, 30-minute and 4-hour is bullish. And we're seeing the exact same situation on the S&P 500. 5-minute is bearish, 10-minute is testing, 30-minute and 4-hour are bullish. So obviously, depending on what kind of trader you are, you're going to care about different time frames. If you're a scalp trader, you probably care about nothing bigger than the 5-minute. But if you're a swing trader, you probably care about like the 4-hour and above. So just waiting. Patience. No one knows where this is going to go. Even though I am hopeful that we bounce, and that's what I would like to happen, like I said, I'm still mindful of the fact that this might not hold and we could puke. And then if we get kicked out of 5,775, I'm going to have to take all my profits off the table. But I'm in the position still because of that non-0% chance that we bounce off of this support. We push up to here, we get smacked, higher low, and then we really start to go. So like, yeah, I'm taking on an additional risk by not locking in what I have right now. But, there's RFK. Hang on. I'm getting some sound. There's Trump. All right. I'll give you guys the sound.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. It's a big day.
Let's get it ripping,
fun.
brother.
You'll maybe find reasons why it's not, but I can't imagine because we have a lot of great things happening. It's been a very strong week and a very strong weekend. Before we begin, let me say a few words about the historic events that took place over the last few days. On Saturday, my administration helped broker a full and immediate ceasefire, I think a permanent one,
Delta's
between
picking
India
up.
and Pakistan, ending a dangerous conflict of two nations with lots of nuclear weapons. And they were going at it hot and heavy, and it was seemingly not going to stop. And I'm very proud to let you know that the leadership of India and Pakistan was unwavering, powerful, but unwavering in both cases, and having these, they really were, from the standpoint of having the strength and the wisdom and fortitude to fully know and to understand the gravity of the situation. And we helped a lot. And we helped also with trade. I said, come on, we're going to do a lot of trade with you guys. Let's stop it. Let's stop it. If you stop it, we're doing trade. If you don't stop it, we're not going to do any trade. People have never really used trade the way I used it. That I can tell you. And all of a sudden they said, I think we're going to stop. And they have. And they did it for a lot of reasons, but trade is a big one. We're going to do a lot of trade with Pakistan. We're going to do a lot of trade with India. We're negotiating with India right now. We're going to be soon negotiating with Pakistan. And we stopped the nuclear conflict. I think it could have been a bad nuclear war. Millions of people could have been killed, so I'm very proud of that. I also want to thank Vice President Vance and Secretary of State Rubio for their work and efforts. They worked very hard on that. We also, as you know, created a situation where the Houthis, for the first time ever, have ceased firing, and they've let it be known that they're not going to be firing at American ships anymore, not going to be firing at Americans anymore. This was a heavy barrage that lasted
Order
for
submitted.
approximately 50 days. And as you know, they've been in war essentially for forever. But over the last 10 years, they've been very difficult for other countries. Nobody was able to do what we did. But they stopped, and we take their word for it. Their surrogates and them directly said, we don't want to do this anymore. And so we were satisfied with that. In addition, yesterday we achieved a total reset with China after productive talks in Geneva. Both sides now agreed to reduce the tariffs imposed after April 2nd to 10% for 90 days as negotiators continue on the largest structural issues. And I want to tell you that a couple of things. First of all, that doesn't include the tariffs that are already on, that are our tariffs. And it doesn't include tariffs on cars, steel, aluminum, things such as that, or tariffs that may be imposed on pharmaceuticals, because we want to bring the pharmaceutical businesses back to the United States. And they're already starting to come back now based on tariffs. Because they don't want to pay 25, 50, or 100% tariffs, so they're moving them back to the United States. I spoke to Tim Cook this morning, and he's going to, I think, even up his numbers, $500 billion. He's going to be building a lot of plants in the United States for Apple, and we look forward to that. I really do look forward to that. But the talks in Geneva were very friendly. The relationship is very good. We're not looking to hurt China. China was being hurt very badly. They were closing up factories. They were having a lot of unrest. And they were very happy to be able to do something with us. And the relationship is very, very good. I'll speak to President Xi maybe at the end of the week.
Whoa.
We have some other things we're doing. But one of the biggest things that we're doing, and I don't know if people realize this, but we made a great deal with China, great trade deal, but it was a much bigger deal originally, and then they canceled it right in the last day. Some of you faces I remember were there when that happened. I remember you. And we had a deal where they opened up their country to trade with the United States, and they took that away at the last moment, and then I canceled the whole thing, and then 6 months later we ended up doing a smaller deal, but it was a big deal. It was $50 billion worth of product that they were going to purchase from our farmers, et cetera. And we agreed to that. People thought it was 15 because they were doing 15. We made it 50 because I misunderstood the 15. I said, you got to get 50. Because when I asked, if you remember the story, when I asked, what are we doing with them? My Secretary of Agriculture at the time, Sonny Perdue, said, sir, it's about 15 billion and we're asking for 15. And I thought he said 50. So I said, so they came back with the deal at 15, and I said, no way, I want 50, because you said 50. They said, sir, we didn't say that anyway. Bottom line, I said, go back and ask for 50, and they gave us 50. And they were honoring the deal.
What?
And we would call them up a lot.
Is happening?
For the corn and for the wheat and for everything. They were honoring the deal, and then when Biden got in, they no longer honored the deal. There was nobody to call. I would call on an average of once every 2 weeks to say, come on, you have to speed it up a little bit. And our farmers were doing great. I said to them, buy more land and bigger tractors, if you remember. That's what happened. But the deal was a very good deal. But the best part of the deal was that we opened up China. China agreed to open itself up to American business to go in. And it would have been a great thing, I think, for China. They would be able to see things that they haven't seen. They would be able to buy products that they have never been able to buy. Would have been great for American business. I think it would have brought unity between China, better unity between China and the United States. And the bottom line is that they canceled it the last day. We were all set to sign it, and then I went a little bit angry. I got a little angry. I said they canceled the deal. The deal was done. It was all ready to be signed, and people went over. They came back to me, sir, they don't want to sign the opening up China. Well, the biggest thing that we're discussing is the opening up China, and they've agreed to do that, but it's going to take a while to paper it. You know, that's not the easiest thing to paper. But that's the single, I think, to me, some people would disagree. Some people would say we're getting a lot of money with tariffs or whatever. But, you know, especially when you add what we already have. Because remember, we're already getting the 50% on steel and different things. That's not included in these numbers. So you can add that. But the biggest thing to me is the opening up. I think it would be fantastic for our businesses if we could go in and compete with China. It would be a lot of jobs for China. It would be, I think, at a time when they can frankly use the jobs. And that's what we're talking about. So that's a very, very important element to add. So when Scott, I watched him speak the other day, and I think he didn't want to say it, but I said, it's okay to say it. Look, if we don't get it, we don't get it. But if we don't get it, it won't be a positive thing. But if we do get it, I think it's maybe the most important thing to happen. Because if you think about it, we opened up our country to China. They have very few restrictions. And they didn't open their country to us. Never made sense to me. It's not fair. And they've agreed to open China, fully open China. And I think it's going to be fantastic for China. I think it's going to be fantastic for us. And I think it's going to be great for unification and peace. China will also suspend and remove all of its non-monetary barriers. They've agreed to do that. Well, they're very numerous. But again, to me, the biggest thing that came out of that meeting is they've agreed. Now we have to get it papered, but they've agreed to open up China. It's going to be great for everybody. And third, I'm very happy to announce that Idan Alexander, an American citizen who until recently most thought was no longer living, thought was dead, is going to be released in about 2 hours, actually. And he's going to be released before the eyes of Steve Witkoff, who has done a fantastic job. I know a lot of people that have a lot of talent. I know Steve had a lot of talent. But I know a lot of people with a lot of talent, but there's one that I thought had a special way about him, special personality, aside from being a good deal maker, had a special way about him, and it was Steve. Knew very little about the subject matter, who does, but he learned it in about 2 hours, and he's been fantastic. So I want to just thank Steve, but they're going to be releasing Idan in about 2 hours from now, or sometime today, let's say. And again, they thought he was dead just a short while ago. His parents are so happy. They're so happy. So it's, as you know, Idan's the only American citizen who's captured and held hostage by Hamas since October 7th, 2023. And he's coming home to his parents, which is really great news. I mean, to me, it's big news. They thought he was dead. So that's that. So we'll be heading there, and we'll be seeing 3 primary countries. You know all about that: Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar. On Thursday's meeting with Russia and Ukraine is very important. I was very insistent that that meeting take place. I think good things can come out of that meeting. Stop the bloodshed of the horrible. It's a bloodbath. But that 5,000 more, it's really much more, I'm trying to be conservative, more than 5,000 soldiers. Russian, they're not American soldiers, they're from Russia, they're from Ukraine, but they're people. They're human souls, and they're being killed at levels that we haven't seen since the Second World War. And it's every week. A lot of drone fighting. It's a whole new form of warfare, and it's violent and vicious. And so that's it. I'd like to go back to China just for a second. They're very heavy on the fentanyl. We're charging them, as you know, 20% for the fact that they send fentanyl into our country. And they've agreed that they're going to stop that. And, you know, they'll be rewarded by not having to pay
Potential double bottom here
hundreds
off
of billions of dollars in
5,800.
tariffs. So the fentanyl
Confirmation
should
would be
stop.
the
It
break of
comes
the
from China.
954
It's
high.
Amazing. And comes through our southern border, comes through our northern border too, comes through Canada, and comes through our southern border, much more through the southern border. But so that's a very
Mag
important
7
subject
Delta
to
is
me.
very bullish.
Because
It's just
everybody in this
ripping.
room
And
was
I'm kind of
friends
confused because price hasn't picked
or
up quite
people
yet.
that have
But
family
the Mag
members
7
that
is
died
kind of
of
giving us a
fentanyl.
little hint here that
So
it's
there's a
actually
big incentive
bullish
for
underneath.
China to stop, and I take them at their word. They're going to work on that, I think, very hard. And one thing, when they work on something, they get it done.
Jesus.
So now I'm about to depart on a historic visit. Some of you are going with us to, as I said, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and United Arab Emirates. Before I do, I'll sign one of the most consequential executive orders in our country's history. I don't think there's ever been anything signed like this, certainly not with respect to health care, nothing even close. I'm delighted to be joined on this occasion by Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy, Jr., who is doing a really good job, I have to tell you that. CMS Administrator, a friend of mine, Dr. Mehmet Oz, who is an amazing guy. You know, I was telling Bobby before, Oz had a very successful show, but it hurt his reputation. Because when you're in show business, it hurts your reputation a little bit. It's good for you, but in terms of professionalism and being a doctor, it sort of hurts your reputation. This guy went to the best schools, was the best, I mean, top of the line. Then he did a television show, became a success.
Apple's going
Made a lot
nuts.
of money, all that stuff, but it sort of hurt him. And you know who I compare that to? I hate to say this, but a special woman, Jeanine Pirro. She was the toughest, smartest DA, maybe in our countries, in our cities and states history, New York. She was really tough, really sharp. Then she did a show.
Apple's
And
flow.
people didn't
That's
think of her quite
strong.
the same way. She became more of an entertainment person, like Oz. Oz is not an entertainer. He's not really an entertainer, if you know the real story. And she isn't either. She is unbelievable. She was one of the strongest district attorneys in the history of New York. Highly respected, very tough. Went after the drug dealers at a level that you don't see today anymore. And hopefully she's given up a tremendous, she's leaving the #1 show on cable television, one of the #1 shows on television, period. The 5, but they've got great people left behind, but she was a big part of it. And so I equated to that. Jeanine Pirro is unbelievable. FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty McCary, with a reputation that's second to none, and the job he's doing already has been fantastic. Thank you, Marty. And Director of the National Institute of Health, Jay Bhattacharya, who has been, as you know, from Stanford, so highly regarded, and have all been working with us very hard on this. And the question they would ask, being a little bit new to the government aspect of it, is why doesn't somebody fight the drug price situation, meaning equalization? There's a term, it's called equalization. Nobody wants to mention that term. And I'm not knocking the drug companies. I'm really more knocking the countries than the drug companies, because they're forced to do things. But the drug lobby is the strongest lobby in this country, they say, the drug lobby. It's between that and lawyers, and they have a lot of power. But starting today, the United States will no longer subsidize the health care of foreign countries, which is what we were doing. We're subsidizing others' health care. Countries where they paid a small fraction of what, for the same drug, that what we pay many, many times more for. And we'll no longer tolerate profiteering and price gouging from Big Pharma. But again, it was really the countries that forced Big Pharma to do things that, frankly, I'm not sure they really felt comfortable doing. But they've gotten away with it, these countries. European Union has been brutal. And the drug companies actually told me stories. It was just brutal how they forced them. And European Union suing all our companies, Apple, Google, Meta. They're suing all of our companies, they end up, they have judges that are European Union-centric, and they get rewarded 15 billion, 17 billion, 20 billion, and they use that to run their operation. Not going to happen any longer, that I can tell you. So what's been happening is we've been subsidizing other countries throughout the world, not just in Europe, throughout the world. European Union was the most difficult from what I understand. I mean, I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine who's a businessman, very, very, very top guy. Most of you would have heard of him. A highly neurotic, brilliant businessman, seriously overweight, and he takes the fat shot drug. And he called me up, and he said, President, he calls me, he used to call me Donald, now he calls me President, so that's nice respect, but he's a rough guy, smart
Mag
guy.
7 is ripping, folks. I think we
Very
might get
successful,
going
very
today.
rich.
I know
I
we're not
wouldn't even
seeing
know
it
how
in
we
price
would know
because the
this,
SPY is
because he's
flat,
got
but
comments.
look at this
President,
flow
can I
on the
ask you a
Mag
question?
7.
What?
It
I'm
is
in London,
moving.
and I just paid for this damn fat drug I take. I said, it's not working. He said,
Mismatch. Something's not adding up, folks.
I just paid $88. And in New York, I pay $1,300. What the hell is going on? He said, so I checked. And it's the same box, made in the same plant, by the same company. It's the identical pill that I buy in New York. And here I'm paying $88 in London. In New York, I'm paying $1,300. Now, this is a great businessman, but he's not familiar with this crazy situation that we have. But he was stunned. But it was just one of those stories. And I brought it up with the drug companies, represented by somebody who's very, very smart, good person too. And we argued about it for about half hour. And then finally he just said, because they can't justify it, he just said, look, you got me. You got me. I can no longer justify it.
What is this story?
They've been justifying this crap for years. They said, oh, it's research and development. Well, I said, well, research and development, other countries should pay research and development too. It's for their benefit. It was just one of those things. And the other countries would set a price, and they'd meet the price, and they'd say, if you don't meet the price, you can't sell it in our country. I said, well, then you walk away, and they'll call you back, and they'll sell it in the country. But now they'll have to do that. So for the first time in many years, we'll slash the cost of prescription drugs, and we will bring fairness to America. Drug prices will come down by much more, really, if you think 59. If you think of a drug that is sometimes 10 times more expensive, it's much more than the 59%. It depends on the way you want to analyze it, but in one way you could analyze it that way. But between 59 and 80, and I guess even 90%. So when I worked so hard in the first term, and if I got prices down, remember I was the only one to ever get prices down for a full year, but I'd get them down like 2%, and I thought it was like a big deal. Well, we're getting them down 60, 70, 80, 90%, but actually more than that if you think about it in the way mathematically. And Farmer has to say, we're sorry, but we'll not be able to do this any longer to these countries that have been so tough. They've been very tough, nasty. It's trade. It's trade. And Pharma is also very powerful. And the Democrats have protected Pharma. The Democrats, this is the Democrats have protected Pharma. These are the Democrats. And by the way, I just called the Speaker of the House, and I just called the leader, our leader in the Senate, John Thune, Mike Johnson. Spoke to both of them. I said, when you score, you're going to have to score two things. You're going to have to, number one, score that hundreds of billions of dollars of tariff money is coming in. But even bigger than that, you're going to have to score that your cost for Medicaid and Medicare and just basically pharmaceuticals and drugs is going down at a level that nobody has ever seen before. It'll pay for the Golden Dome. I see the Golden Dome is there. See?
Oh, hell yeah.
That'll
Tell us about
easily
the
pay for
Golden
the
Dome.
Golden Dome. And we'll have a lot of money left over. We need the Golden Dome, by the way, in this world. Although this world's a lot safer today than it was a week ago. And a lot safer than it was
Dome.
6 months ago.
Golden Dome.
We had people that had
Golden
no
Dome.
clue what they were doing. So today Americans spend 70% more for prescription drugs than we spent in the year 2000. Think of that. Our country has the highest drug prices anywhere in the world by sometimes a factor of 5, 6, 7, 8 times. It's not like they're slightly higher. They're 6, 7, 8 times. There are even cases of 10 times higher. So that you go 10 times more expensive for the same drug, that's big numbers. Even though the United States is home to only 4% of the world's population, pharmaceutical companies make more than 2/3 of their profits in America. So think of that. With 4% of the population, the pharmaceutical companies make most of their money, most of their profits from America. That's not a good thing. Now, I think, by the way, I have great respect for these companies and for the people that run them. I really do. And I think they did one of the greatest jobs in history for their company, convincing people for many years that this was a fair system. Nobody really understood why, but I figured it out. For years, pharmaceutical and drug companies have said that research and development costs were what they are, and for no reason whatsoever. They had to be borne by America alone. Not anymore, they don't. This means American patients were effectively subsidizing socialist healthcare systems in Germany, in all parts of the European Union. They were the toughest of all. They were nasty. And I see that. I see that with trade, too. European Union is in many ways nastier than China. Okay? And we've just started with them. Oh, they'll come down a lot. You watch. We have all the cards. They treated us very unfairly. They sell us 13 million cars. We sell them none. They sell us their agricultural products. We sell them virtually none. They don't take our products. That gives us all the cards, and very unfair. So they're going to have to pay more for health care, and we're going to have to pay less. That's all it is. And believe it or not, because it's really the world we're talking about, not just the European Union, but because it's the world, the numbers are for the healthcare company not as bad as you would think. They'll make the same. I think the healthcare companies should make pretty much the same money. I really don't believe they should be affected very much, because it's just a redistribution of wealth. It's a redistribution where it could be the same top line, but it's going to be distributed differently. Europe's going to have to pay a little bit more. The rest of the world's going to have to pay a little bit more, and America's going to pay a lot less. Again, because it's a much smaller population than when you think of the whole world. So basically what we're doing is equalizing. There's a new word that I came up with, which I think is probably the best word. We're going to equalize, where we're all going to pay the same. We're going to pay what Europe's going to pay. We're going to all pay. Now, there may be some countries in dire need, and I would be willing to sacrifice that and help them. But it's called most favored nation. We are going to pay the lowest price there is in the world. We will get whoever is paying the lowest price. That's the price that we're going to get. So remember that. So we're no longer paying 10 times more than another country.
We're coming up to
Whoever
my
is
test
paying
to get back out of the
lowest
transition
price,
zone.
look
If
at
we
that
could get
price,
above and
we
hold
will
above
say that's the
820,
price we're going to
that
pay.
sets up the door to 850.
Most favored
But
nations.
we could easily get
That's what
rejected
it
here the
is.
way we were at 954.
One
So
breast
just be
cancer
careful.
drug costs Americans over $16,000 per bottle, but the same drug from the same factory, manufactured by the same company, is 1/6 that price in Australia and 1/10 that price in Sweden. 1/10 for the identical product. A common asthma drug costs almost $500 here in America, but costs less than $40 in the United Kingdom. So $40 in the United Kingdom, which is where this gentleman told me he paid a small amount for his shot. But think of that. So $40.
We're knocking on the door.
$500 here. That's not even bad. There are much
Mag
worse
7's
examples.
crazy
And the weight
strong.
loss drug,
Spy is also
Ozempic,
decently strong.
costs
But
10
Mag
times
7's
more in the
just
United
ripping.
States than in the rest of the developed world. 10 times more. Why? Why? What did we do? Suckers. But we never had a president that had the courage to do this. And nobody knew the system like I do. I mean, I've gotten to know this system so well. And I don't think it's fair that it benefits Obamacare. Obamacare is a failure. It's not a good health care. It works. I made it work. I had an obligation to make it work, or an obligation to let it die. I chose that we had to make it work. I had to make it as good as possible. And I had a choice. I could have let it fail or make it as good as possible. As good as possible means it was still not very good, but it survived. And we did the right thing. But this makes everything work. And I don't want to have a bad form of health care work because of the fact I was able to cut drug prices by 80 or 90%. So we're going to maybe come up with something. I think this gives the Republicans a chance to actually do a health care that's much better than Obamacare and for less money, which if you guys would work on that along with Congress. But I do want to say that Democrats could have done this a long time ago. They have fought like hell for the drug companies, and they knew they were doing the wrong thing. And it's going to be very hard. I was just telling the leader and the speaker that it's going to be very hard for the Democrats to vote against the one big, beautiful deal. The greatest tax cuts in history, greatest everything, but now you have the big drug prices because that's going to be included. It makes that whole situation different from a scoring standpoint. I just told them, I called them up about this. I said, I'm going to do something that's going to be very monumental, and you're going to be scoring. You better tell your people that this is going to score really well. And then add hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs to your list also. But as big as the tariffs are, this is something that really hits quickly. 5 years ago, I signed an executive order to confront this disaster, but only confront it in a minor way. It was a good confrontation, but never to this extent. And it took people a little while to understand a very complicated system. But Joe Biden, without any knowledge of what he was doing, terminated the policy and then pretended to negotiate under a new system. And then you take a look, 5 out of the 10 drugs that he negotiated are now over 200% more expensive in America than the rest of the world, and far more expensive than when he even got involved. Much more expensive than when he got involved. Joe Biden's plan was as you know, because you wrote about it, you don't say it very loudly, but it was a very big failure, as was his whole presidency. First, I'm directing the U.S. Trade Representatives and Department of Commerce to begin investigations into foreign nations that extort drug companies by blocking their products unless they accept bottom line and very low dollar amounts for their product, unfairly shifting the cost burden onto American patients. And we'll be taking a look at that very strongly. The biggest thing we're going to do is we're going to tell those countries, like those represented by the European Union, that, that game is up, sorry. And if they want to get cute, then they don't have to sell cars into the United States anymore. It's a very big subject. And they won't get cute, because I'll defend the drug companies from that standpoint. They were given a price by the European unions and other countries. This is what you do. This is what we're going to pay. We're not going to pay any more. Let America pay the difference, because there was a big shortfall. Let America pay it.
Double rejection here
and
at 20.
That's what we did, but we're not doing it anymore.
But
Next,
we do have
my
higher
administration
lows.
will secure what we're calling most favored nations drug pricing. The principle is simple. Whatever the lowest price paid for a drug in other developed countries, that is the price that Americans will pay. And we're using the term other developed countries because there are some countries that need some additional help, and that's fine. I think that's very good. Some prescription drug and pharmaceutical prices will be reduced almost immediately by 50 to 80 to 90%. Big Pharma will either abide by this principle voluntarily or will use the power of the federal government to ensure that we are paying the same price as other countries. To accelerate these price restrictions and reductions, my administration will also cut out the middlemen. We're going to totally cut out the famous middlemen. Nobody knows who they are, middlemen. I've been hearing the term for 25 years, middlemen. I don't know who they are, but they're rich. That I can tell you. We're going to cut out the middlemen and facilitate the direct sale of drugs at the most favored nation price directly to the American citizen. So we're cutting out, Bobby, the middlemen. It's so important, right? They got to do that.
Dude,
They're
right
worse than
there.
the drug companies. They don't
Unfortunately,
even make a product,
perfectly
and they
called
make a
it.
fortune.
I really
That's
wanted
very
that
smart
breakthrough.
business people, that I can tell you. If companies make no significant progress toward most favored nation pricing, which we will insist that they do, so I think I'm wasting time talking about it. We're going to insist upon it. And we'll insist, and we're going to help the drug companies with the other nations, because those other nations do a lot of trading with us. They need our trade, just like China needed us very badly. They need us just as badly. We will do whatever we have to with trade, just like we did some great things with trade with India and Pakistan. It really helped the situation, very heated situation. Could have lost millions of people, more than millions. I mean, many millions of people. And they want to do business with America, but we never used our powers that way. We never knew how. We never had people that knew how to do that. We'll also open up America's market to safe and legal imports of affordable drugs from other countries, putting dramatic downward pressure on prices. And if necessary, we'll investigate the drug companies, and we'll, in particular, investigate the countries that are doing this, and we will add it onto the price that we charge them for doing business in America. In other words, we'll add it on to tariffs if they don't do what is right, which is everybody should equalize. Everybody should pay the same price. And special interests may not like this very much, but the American people will. I am doing this for the American people. I'm doing this against the most powerful lobby in the world, probably the drug lobby, drug and pharmaceutical lobby. But it's one of the most important orders, I think, that's ever been signed, certainly with regard to health care or health in the history of our country, and it's an honor to be a part of it. And I'd like to ask Robert F. Kennedy to say a few words, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an extraordinary day. This is an issue that, I grew up in the Democratic Party, and every major Democratic leader for 20 years has been making this promise to the American people. This was the fulcrum of Bernie Sanders' runs for presidency, that he was going to eliminate this discrepancy between Europe and the United States. But as it turns out, none of them were doing it. It's one of these promises that politicians make to their constituents, knowing that they'll never have to do it. And the reason they'll never have to do it is because they know that Congress is controlled in so many ways by the pharmaceutical industry. There's at least one pharmaceutical lobbyist for every congressman, every senator on Capitol Hill, and every member of the Supreme Court. By some estimates, 3. Pharmaceutical companies, the industry itself, spends 3 times what the next largest lobbyist spends on lobbying. So this was an issue that people talked about, but nobody wanted to do anything because it was radioactive. They knew you couldn't get it by Congress. We now have a president who is a man of his word, who has the courage. President Trump was taking money from the pharmaceutical industry too. I think they gave you $100 million. But he can't be bought, unlike most of the politicians in this country. And he is standing here for the American people. I don't know what, there's writers like Lord Elizabeth Warren or Robert Reich who are saying that President Trump is on this side of the oligarchs. There has never been a president more willing to stand up to the oligarchs than President Donald Trump. And I'm very, very proud of you, Mr. President, for your courage, I'll say, because I don't want to be crude, your intestinal fortitude, your stiff spine, and your willingness to stand up for the American people. We have 4.2% of the world's population. Our country represents 75% of the revenues for pharmaceutical companies. We spend in our country $1,126 per capita on drugs. In Britain, they spend
Potential
about
trend line breakdown here on the Nasdaq.
1/5 of what we
SPY
do.
is about to
And
test.
this is true across Europe.
We've had 3 separate issues at 58.20. Market open 9.54 and then 10.16.
America has to pay for this innovation.
Too many puts were being purchased at that level.
President Trump is saying to our European partners, is you
10,
got to
16
raise the amount that you're
puts
paying for the
just
drugs
being
and
bought,
pay for your share of the innovation.
adding a lot of
that
negative
the
delta
United
into the
States
system.
is no longer subsidizing that. If the Europeans raise the price of their drugs by just 20%, that is $10 trillion that can be spent on innovation, and the health of all people all across the globe is going to increase because we're going to have better products. So I'm just so grateful to be here today. I never thought that this would happen in my lifetime. I have a couple of kids who are Democrats, are big Bernie Sanders fans, and when I told them that this was going to happen, they had tears in their eyes because they thought this is never going to happen in our lifetime, and we finally have a president who's willing to stand up for the American people. Thank you, and Dr. Oz.
The delta's just dumping since
Thanks, Secretary
1024.
Kennedy. This is the most powerful executive order on pharmacy pricing and healthcare ever in the history of our nation. And it's only happening
Back at key
because
support.
we have a
Let's see if
president
it holds.
with the fortitude, the guts to stand up to the withering criticism and lobbying that's going to occur.
Nope, fresh
as
low.
soon as folks
They're
hear
slicing
about the
it,
executive
dude.
order. So on behalf of the child in Philadelphia who's got an autoimmune disease with a $1,000 a month drug, or the older woman in Los Angeles who's on a blood thinner who can't afford her copay, I want to thank President Trump. God bless you for having the guts to take on this industry. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
The
So
SPY
let's
just
talk about
started
the details
dumping.
a little bit. And this is primarily
Calls dumped.
about equalization, as President
Call
Trump said. It's about
sold,
fairness.
puts purchased.
Think of NATO as a metaphor.
The delta's taking a
When
double hit.
President Trump said, you've got to pay a little more, so it makes sense for all of us. They came up, and the European countries contributed. The same thing we believe will happen in this situation. Most people who have thought about this process agree that it is patently unfair to tolerate the numbers that Secretary Kennedy and President Trump have reflected to you. On this chart to my left is a list of the 10 drugs that were negotiated in the IRA. Again, this is the bill, the law, that regulates a negotiation process. This is the best price that was able to be obtained by the Biden administration. And if you look at these numbers, they actually reflect how much on top of the most favored nation price was being paid by the United States. So the closest to me, Bob, you can point to the Jardiance, the closest one, 289%, the one that's closest to you. That means that we are paying in America 4 times more than that drug costs in other countries. Again, 100% is the baseline. It's 289% above that baseline. It goes all the way down to when we're paying 50% more than any other country. That's the range. As was pointed out by President Trump, half the time we're paying 3 times more than is paid in other countries. It doesn't make any sense for the system. That stated, President Trump has over and over again indicated, and Secretary Kennedy reflected as well, we want innovation. We want our technology partners doing the best they can to make the best solutions for drugs to cure as many people in America and around the world as possible. By getting our allies to pay a bit more, as they should be, and they should have for many years been doing, will course correct a problem that's gotten out of hand. And by doing that in a thoughtful, effective way, we're going to be able to get the pharmaceutical industry whole. Those jobs will still be here, will still be productive, will still be curing cancer and a slew of other ailments that plague humanity. America will still be the leader in this space, but we'll be paying the appropriate amount, the right-sized amount for those tasks. So over the next 30 days, the 4 of us up here, together with people who are standing in the back of this room, who are doing a lot of the heavy lifting, are going to be approaching pharmaceutical companies to talk specifically about what we want the most favored nation price to be based on the best data we have. We're looking forward to a thoughtful interaction with these corporate leaders, many of whom we've spoken to and in quiet will agree the system is not right the way it is. They're patriotic Americans. They want what's right. But the fact that in my lifetime, as Secretary Kennedy said, for the first time, we have a thoughtful and aggressive approach thanks to President Trump, on taking on the special interests, should give all Americans confidence that this is an administration that stands for fairness, and it should chill the waters for those who believe they can push us away from our North Star, which is to take care of the American people. Mr. President, God bless you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Jay, you want to go next?
Sure. Yep. So I teach economics at Stanford as well as health policy. And one thing that's really, really simple in economics is that when you have a persistent price difference for the same product between 2 countries, there's something deeply wrong. And what President Trump has done is a historic measure that should have been done a long time ago. What we're going to do is make sure that those prices become much closer to equal, like a competitive market you'd expect. Right now what's happening is the American people are subsidizing in large fraction the research and development efforts for drug companies around the world by the higher prices that we pay. With this new order, Europe will share the burden of that. And in fact, if you may think of it as like as somehow it's going after drug companies, actually it's helping drug companies. Because what we're also going to do with this order, what President Trump has done with this order, is he's said to European governments, look, if you are taking advantage of the drug companies by forcing them to charge very, very low prices, we're going to defend American drug companies in Europe. At the same time, we're standing up for the American consumer who's been paying far too high prices for far too long. I can go back decades to point to congressional reports after government report of tremendously high drug prices, much higher than the rest of the world, and nothing has been done about it until this moment. And I'm really, really proud, President Trump, that you've done this. I'm really proud to be included in this and looking forward to the work ahead.
Thank you, Jay. Great.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the many doctors I've talked to about this very issue, thank you for taking the bull by the horns. Presidents on both sides of the aisle have talked about this and floated it and said they've wanted to do it. So,
all right,
you've had
potential
the
bottom
to
here
do
on
it.
the spy. Let's see.
Thank you. I've been a surgical oncologist at Johns Hopkins for 22 years, and I have seen
Let's look for the retest of
suffer.
5800.
We didn't take an oath to heal patients and then watch their life get ruined financially with their home, mortgage, retirement, going down the drain with GoFundMe campaigns, raising money from church communities and synagogues and friends they haven't seen in 20 years to try to raise money for what? For a system where Americans have been getting ripped off by 10, 12, 15 times higher prices than we see in other countries. The fundamental problem in healthcare is that we've had non-competitive markets. We can do little things around the edges, or we can transform those markets to competitive markets, and that's what this executive order does today. Imagine buying a Ford for $175,000, a regular car, and then hearing that people in London are buying it for $10,000 every day, all day long. That is the craziness of this system. We're going to do everything we can at the FDA to support this executive order. It's transformative. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So thank you very much, everybody. I think it's a very important day. In many ways, you have, we'll start with the Houthis. We go to Pakistan and India. We go to what we did with China, the trade deal, and with UK. And by the way, many other deals are coming in very much. At a certain point, we'll just set the price because we know where we are. But we'll just set the price. But world trade is going to be terrific, and our country is going to be making a lot of money. Taxes are going to go down. Taxes are going to go down very, very substantially. But you look at all of the things that we've done, and now today I'm heading over. We'll see what we're going to do with respect to Iran. I think you have very good things happening there, too, by the way. I think
Delta turning back south.
can't have a nuclear weapon, but I think that they are talking intelligently. We're in the midst of talking to them, and they're right now acting very intelligent. We want Iran to be wealthy and wonderful and happy and great, but they can't have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. So I think they understand that I mean business, and I think they're being very reasonable thus far. And don't underestimate Thursday in Turkey. President Erdogan is going to be a great host, and we are doing some work with him having to do with Syria, too, by the way. We're going to have to make a decision on the sanctions, which we may very well relieve. We may take them off of Syria because we want to give them a fresh start. But President Erdogan's asked me about that. Many people have asked me about that because the way we have them sanctioned, it doesn't really give them much of a start. So we want to see if we can help them out. So we'll make that determination. But I think you're going to have maybe a good meeting. You have the potential for a good meeting, that a meeting wasn't going to take place. I insisted that that meeting take place. And it is taking place. And I think you may have a good result out of the Thursday meeting in Turkey between Russia and Ukraine. and I believe the two leaders were going to be there. I was thinking about flying over. I don't know where I'm going to be on Thursday. I've got so many meetings, but I was thinking about actually flying over there. There's a possibility of it, I guess, if I think things can happen. But we got to get it done. We got to save 5,000 lives a week. 5,000 lives is really more than that. It's worse than that. And when you see and you don't want to see it, but when you see the satellite photographs of the battlefield with arms and legs and heads all over the place, separated by 30 yards from bodies, doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. So we're working very hard to see if we can end that bloodbath. Okay, there shouldn't be too many questions. It's been covered pretty well.
Mr. President, thank you for taking questions. Two quick ones for you. Starting on trade. If a longer-term deal is not reached with China at the end of these 90 days, can the American people expect those tariffs to go back up to 145%?
No, but they would go up substantially higher.
Okay. And then
You know, at 145, you're really decoupling because nobody's going to buy. But they can go, they got very high because of additional tariffs I applied during the course because of fentanyl and other things. But no, but they'd go substantially higher.
And then on Qatar, Mr. President,
I think you will have a deal, however.
Okay, you're confident that there will be a deal. On Qatar, has Qatar asked for anything in exchange for that $400 million luxury jumbo jet? And how can the American people be so sure that they will not in the future?
Well, I think what happens with the plane is that, we're very disappointed that it's taking Boeing so long to build a new Air Force One. We have an Air Force One that's 40 years old. And if you take a look at that compared to the new plane of the equivalent, stature at the time, it's not even the same ballgame. You look at some of the Arab countries and the planes they have parked alongside of the United States of America plane, it's like from a different planet. And it's close to 40 years old, might be more than 40 years old now. And we, when I first came in, I signed an order to get it built. I took it over from the Obama administration. They had originally agreed. I got the price down much lower. And then when the election didn't exactly work out the way that it should have, a lot of work was not done on the plane because a lot of people didn't know. They made change orders that were so stupid, so ridiculous. And it ended up being a total mess, a real mess. And when I came back, I said, by the way, what's going on with the Boeings that are coming in? Well, sir, they're way behind. And they are. They're way behind. They were way behind. Another mess that I inherited from Biden. And it's going to be a while before we get them. And I think Qatar, who has really, we've helped them a lot over the years in terms of security and safety.
Market's bouncing a little bit right now.
And very, very nicely. And I have a lot of respect for the leadership and for the leader, Qatar. And I think they knew about it because they buy Boeings. They buy a lot of Boeings. And they knew about it. And they said, we would like to do something. And if we can get a 747 as a contribution to our Defense Department to use during a couple of years while they're building the other ones, I think that was a very nice gesture. Now, I could be a stupid person and say, oh, no, we don't want a free plane. We give free things out. We'll take one, too. And it helps us out because, again,
we'll
we're
take
talking
free
about,
things,
we
too.
have 40-year-old aircraft. The money we spend, the maintenance we spend on those planes to keep them tippy-top is astronomical. You wouldn't even believe it. So I think it's a great gesture from Qatar. I appreciate it very much. I would never be one to turn down that kind of an offer. I mean, I could be a stupid person and say, no, we don't want a free, very expensive airplane. But I thought it was a great gesture. And I think it was a gesture because of the fact that we have helped and continue to, we will continue to, all of those countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, and others. We keep them safe. If it wasn't for us, they probably wouldn't exist right now. And I think this was just a gesture of good faith. And I don't get it. Someday it'll be like Ronald Reagan. They decommission them. They get to a certain age, they decommission them. It'll go to my library. They're talking about going to my library in years out. But I thought it was a great gesture. And it's something that was done by Ronald Reagan. They actually decommissioned the plane, and he put it in his library. And it actually has made the library, I think, a Boeing 707. It's actually made the library more successful. So it was good.
Do you plan to use the plane? after you leave office?
No, I don't. No, it would go directly to the library after I leave office.
President,
I wouldn't be using it. No.
Mr. President, on the hostage, you said that the release of the American hostage, Adam Alexander, is a step in good faith to end this war. Do you expect any progress and perhaps announcement on ceasefire during your trip to the Middle East?
We hope that we're going to have other hostages released too, as you know. So when I met with the hostages 3 weeks ago that were there for quite a while, you remember the 10 people that came in, mostly young people. 1 or 2 were a little bit older. They were explaining the trials and tribulations. I mean, they went through hell. And I said, how many are there? They said 59. I said, that's a lot. I didn't realize, because we got a lot out. You know, we got a lot of hostages out, I think you will acknowledge. They said 59, but then they said, they followed that up by saying 59, of which 24 are living, the rest are dead. But the people whose son, mostly son, I think 1 daughter in this case, but mostly sons are there, or husbands are there, those people want the dead bodies as much as they want the live body. I have a mother that calls me, but came up to me.
Recaptured 5800. Watch for this trend line, then watch 5820.
He's dead, but they have his body. And I asked her about that, and it's as though he were alive. The level of wanting that body
testing
back
the trend line now.
The same.
Here's a look at the
Couldn't be
Mag
anymore,
7s,
as
kind of
though
swinging back up.
he were
SPY is a
alive.
lot more
So,
choppy. Be
getting the
careful on the
bodies
SPY
back
side.
is very important. That could be a thing having to do with the religion. It could be sent. I was amazed at the level of importance. It's the same as if the son or husband or whatever was alive. So they said 59. In fact, they came in with a number 59 written out on like a sign on their chest. They came to thank me for getting them out. And I said, what does the 59 mean? They said, well, that means there are 59 people. But then they said, but 24 are living. Now it's 21. The number's 21. So now it's actually, we'll get Etan today. We think we're getting him today. So it's 20. So they have 20 live hostages there. The rest are dead bodies.
Mr. President, are you open to negotiating your tariffs on cars, steel, and aluminum with China or any other country?
Well, we're not even talking about that. We're bringing the car business back into this country. We have commitments, and not only commitments, they've already started construction on many plants. They've left Mexico in a few cases. In a few cases, they've left Canada. They're not going to build in Canada. They're going to build here because we have the market, and the tariffs have been amazing. The election and the tariffs. November 5th was a big day, and on top of that, of course, you wouldn't have the tariffs without the election, I guess, if you look at it. But we have at least 11 committed massive car factories that are going to be built, that are in the process of being built. And some are going through, some have actually started. We also have renovations of existing factories where they weren't utilizing the full factory from years gone by, and now they're under full renovation. They'll be opening up full factories in a very short period of time. Our car industry is, I think we're going to have the #1 industry. You know, if you look at Japan and these others, they do tremendously with cars, and they can do that too. But you know, if they want to sell cars in the United States, they're going to have to build factories in the United States, because I'm interested in cars for the United States. Now, one other thing is, in our tax bill, we're giving not only no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, but also we're going to get a deduction for people that borrow money to buy a car if it's made in America. If it's not, we have no interest.
A meeting with between President Putin as well as President Zelensky. If President Putin doesn't show up to these talks in person in Turkey, will you join Europe in putting higher sanctions on Russia?
If I felt it would be important toward getting the deal done, I'm the one that insisted on the meeting. They couldn't get a meeting because one said ceasefire, one said no ceasefire. It was going back and forth. I said, look, at this point, we got to stop it. Just go to the meeting. The meeting's been set.
Trendline breakout.
Go to the meeting on Thursday.
Trendline breakout on the SPY and the Qs. Apple waking up. Tesla waking up. Look for us to take out the 1010 high on the Nasdaq and then the 1015 high on the SPY. That would. We're struggling at this 820 level. That's the test. That's the real test.
Are heading to the United States, where your administration is going to welcome them as refugees. Now, this comes as you've halted virtually all refugee admissions for people fleeing famine and war from countries like Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Why are you creating an expedited path into the country for Afrikaners but not others?
Because they're being killed, and we don't want to see people be killed. Now, South Africa leadership is coming to see me, I understand, sometime next week. And, we're supposed to have I guess a G20 meeting there or something, but we're having a G20 meeting. I don't know how we can go unless that situation's taken care of, but it's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about, but it's a terrible thing that's taking place, and farmers are being killed. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me, but white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa. And the newspapers and the media, television media, doesn't even talk about it. If it were the other way around, they'd talk about it. That would be the only story they'd talk about. And I don't care who they are. I don't care about their race, their color. I don't care about their height, their weight. I don't care about anything. I just know that what's happening is terrible. I have people that live in South Africa. They say it's a terrible situation taking place. So we've essentially extended citizenship to those people to escape from that violence and come here. Yeah.
Mr. President,
please.
Mr. President, thank you. Are you letting China off the hook for these 90 days, and do you really believe that they will follow through with non-tariff barriers and remove those?
Non-monetary tariffs, yeah. Yeah, I think they're going to follow through. I think they want it very badly. I think they want the deal very badly. Again, this doesn't include the steel tariffs that I put on a long time ago that Biden tried to get off, but he couldn't get them off because it was too much money. I took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China, what a lot of people don't know, but we put on the tariffs originally. And if I didn't do that, we wouldn't have a steel industry today. Now we have a thriving steel industry. It'll be thriving much more with what we're doing because this is the next level. But it doesn't include that, doesn't include cars, doesn't include pharmaceuticals when we do that. And the reason we're doing that will be to get them to come back in the country. There are, again, I always say it because a lot of people forget, but if a company like Eli Lilly, which is making a massive investment in the United States right now. They're building many, many plants. They've already started like 7 of them, many plants, but they are not going to be tariffed. There's no tariff cost. So they're all doing that. They're all coming back to the United States. I mean, I'll tell you what, I hope I get the benefit of watching this because, as president, because, it takes a little while to do this stuff. And we're doing it early in the administration. If you think of it, we have, I believe, if you look at the real total, it's over $10 trillion committed for plants and factories. Other administrations haven't had $1 trillion over a 4-year period, even over an 8-year period. We have over $10 trillion committed in one form or the other over 2 months. Give me a break. I'm here to hear 3, but let's give me a break on the first month. We want to get acclimated. But if you think about it, it's really 2 months. And so in 2 months, we have an investment already of over $10 trillion. And other presidents haven't had that done over a year, over 4 years in some cases. It's unprecedented. There's never been anything like it. It's a very exciting time in America. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. President, are you ready to impose sanctions on Russia if Putin doesn't agree with the 30-day ceasefire?
I have a feeling they're going to agree. I do. I have a feeling.
And we think other countries...
He has a feeling, folks.
Mr. President, in the negotiations.
The budget bill negotiations are taking place. Who in your administration is in charge of that while you're gone? Is it
Everybody. Bobby, from the standpoint of medical, this group behind me, I mean, I think it's the best group ever assembled. In terms of medical, I think you're going to see a tremendous cut. I don't think. I mean, I know you're going to see it in Medicaid and Medicare. That cut will be massive because drugs are 50-60% of the cost. So Medicaid costs are going down and Medicare costs are going down because of what we're doing today. And
10 minutes trying to fight back, 10 minutes trying to, but unfortunately the SPY Delta flow has been messed up ever since 10:15. Mag 7 is just kind of flat.
So that's it. They have to. We have to equalize.
Mr. President, what is
price controls?
Say it.
How do you respond to the fact that this?
It's not price control, no. What was, price control is before. If you want to talk about, price control is what they were doing. They were making us pay. They set a price, and they said, here's what we're going to pay, and anything else charge America. Because at that time they had a very stupid president, and it really went crazy during the last 4 years. And remember this, the Democrats are the ones that allowed this to happen. They were the ones that were the protector of this pricing system. And I think it's going to be very hard. You'll have to ask Democrats, are they going to vote against the one great, big, beautiful deal that's being negotiated now, tax cuts, etc., when now on top of the tax cuts and regulation cuts, all the things, now you're going to say that the price of your medicine is going down by 60, 70, 80%. You're going to vote against it? I think a lot of Democrats are going to be forced to do something that their leaders are going to beg them not to do, and that's vote for the bill. I don't see how they can vote against it. How can they vote against it when drug prices, drugs and pharmaceuticals are going to be down 70, 80%? It's going to be very interesting.
Mr. President, what do you say to people who view that luxury jet as a
Order
personal
submitted.
gift to you? Why not leave it behind?
You're ABC fake news, right?
Why not
It's only ABC. Well, a few of you would. Let me tell you, you should be embarrassed asking that question. They're giving us a free jet. I could say, no, don't give us. I want to pay you $1 billion or 400 million or whatever it is. Or I could say, thank you very much. You know, there was an old golfer named Sam Snead. Did you ever hear of him? He won 82 tournaments. He was a great golfer. And he had a motto, when they give you a putt, you say, thank you very much. You pick up your ball and you walk to the next hole. A lot of people are stupid. They say, no, I insist on putting it. And then they putt it and they miss it. And their partner gets angry at them. You know what? Remember that, Sam Snead. When they give you a putt, you pick it up and you walk to the next hole and you say, thank you very much.
Respectfully, sir, as a businessman, some people may look at this and say, have you ever
When they
been
give you a
given
putt,
gift worth
you say
millions of
thank you.
dollars and then not received
It's
anything
not a
else?
gift to me, it's a gift to the Department of Defense. And you should know better, because you've been embarrassed enough, and so has your network. Your network is a disaster. ABC is
Order
a disaster.
canceled.
Here is the bill. Bobby, come on over here. Now you're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars.
Bada bing, bada boom. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3.
Thank you very much.
Locked it in just there. Little trend line breakout play. Little something to get the juices going. All right. They signed it. That's a done deal. We are now going for the third/4th distinct test of 5820. That is a big old level. We got rejected there right at market open, then again at 9:54, then a clear rejection at 10:15, and then that's the one where we really saw things get a bit wonky with the options flow. And then there was from there, we overshot this support at 5,800, kind of a double bottom. We actually broke the initial bounce to the downside, the first hour range, but now we are recovering. We just took out that trend line. That was the quick trade I took right here, locking in 3K on all those eval accounts. So those are now officially passed. And now we're just waiting to see if, I guess, the third time's the charm, the fourth time's the charm, whatever time we want to call it. But it's just 5820. If you were here the whole show, you know that I called this out before the market opened, and it was by no means rocket surgery. It was just a basic understanding of these gamma influences on the day. Speaking of which, we should see if they've in any way been altered. Where are we at? Yeah. Okay, so it is starting to disappear. So they were there 30 minutes ago. All right, so this wall right here, it was bigger. You can see that it's dropped. The wall that we did have is starting to get I don't know. They're starting to beat it down in a certain way. So hopefully this next attempt is the time that we break out. But you never know. You never know what the next trader is going to do. You never know because remember, every single time we move, whether it's in the futures market, the options market, the equity market, that's based on people who are about to trade, whether it's in a minute, 5 minutes, an hour. You don't know if they're going to be aggressively buying. You don't know if they're going to be aggressively selling. Inherently, everything we're looking at is stuff that's happened in the past. And then the current price is active traders. And as where we go, the next bar, whether green, red, or nothing, it's based on what people are about to do after you trade. So you're hoping that they're trading in the same way that you're trading. But of course, anything can happen at any moment. So basically, rejected the breakout, fake out breakdown. I'm calling it a fake out breakdown because we waterfalled a good, 15 points, then quickly recaptured. So the bulls didn't have enough power to get us the breakout. The bears didn't have enough power to get us the breakdown. And we're just kind of bouncing back into this equilibrium that we actually found after the first minute of trading. Ever since 9:31, we've spent just most of the time in this 20-point region and just sideways. And it's worked out like that. But once again, if you rewind to the start of the stream, I've called out 5820 and 5800 before the market even opened. I did not draw these after market open. Literally just rewind and you're going to see that I had this perfectly called out. And in fact, if you go to the 10-minute, you could see it a little bit more evidently. This overall, this white box, this is the transition zone on a 0 DTE basis, as in bullish above, bearish below, transition, choppy, whipsaw within, and surprise, surprise, guess what we are getting? Choppy, whipsaw within. The bulls don't have enough power to get us above, and the bears don't have enough power to get us below. Granted, we are closer to breaking out than breaking down, but also we've seen that a gazillion times before, and then the opposite happens. So I was a little excited here about this trend line. I played that very, very quickly with a super high leverage on all 20 accounts. I played 10 contracts, and that worked. But right now, what I don't like about this, my bias is bullish, obviously, but what I don't like about this is if you look at the hero on the S&P 500 combined complex, we're actually at the lowest delta reading of the day. And you can see starting here where my cursor is at 1016, the dark blue and the light blue lines came down. When those are trending down, that means people, whether to open a position or close a position, you don't really know. But what we do know is it means that they are buying puts. When you buy puts, you are adding negative delta to the system. So once again, I don't know if they're opening or closing a position, but what I can tell you is they are buying puts. So buying to actually be bearish or to open a new position, or maybe buying to get out of a sold put position to lock in gains, maybe. Regardless, what I could tell you is this is adding negative delta. And then that was at 1016, and then fast forward to 1024, you can see the call started to drop, as in they're selling calls, as in removing positive delta. So in this roughly 10-minute period between 1015 and 1024, 1025, you got the double whammy, the 1-2 combo punch of adding negative delta and removing positive delta, which is basically dropping the overall delta at 2x the rate. Because once again, adding negative, removing positive, it's like basically just 2x negative. And this is what I'm not liking about it. So I like that price action is continually knocking on this door. But what I'm not a fan of whatsoever is the fact that we just, according to the options market, if anything, we actually have bearish momentum, not bullish. So that is bumming me out a little bit. Obviously, the Mag 7, the options flow on Apple, Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Tesla, telling a little bit of a different story. It was pretty much bullish up till 1024, and then since then it's flat. So we're not really seeing any sell-offs there. But on the 0 DT perspective, especially for the overall market, we went from a delta high reading of the day at 1016 to now a new delta low reading at 11. So that's a problem. That's definitely a problem. And so we're getting differing information on the options market. And then when you look at the equity market, we're just range bound. We're not breaking out. We're not breaking down. We try to break out. We try to break down. Nothing. So in reality, we've actually spent 99% of the day perfectly range bound in between these two key open interest levels. And also 5,800 is the key psychological level. So what's the play? The play is just to wait. You set an alert for a breakout. You set an alert for a breakdown. And until then, you just do not. You just sit. You just wait, you wait. Gap fill, then rip. The gap fill is really, really far away. Of course, it could happen, but I highly doubt we're getting a gap fill today. The gap fill is, on the SPY, it's 2.6% away. On the Qs, that's 3% away. To drop 2.5%, to drop 3% now, that I mean, you could play that, but I think that's a very, very weak, low-level play. I don't know why anyone would. Gap fills are very good odd plays, but not when it's news-driven. And by definition, this gap up was news driven. We gapped up because of the announcement of US and China. So like, you have to be really, really careful. I'm a fan of the gap fill plays, but only when it's not news driven. If we're gapping up because of a trade deal announcement or an inflation report or something like that, those are not the times that you want to do gap fills, because the market is literally screaming in your face that we're at a whole new equilibrium because of that news. When the gap is just there from like an overnight drift, that's a completely different story. So whatever. If you want, I'm not your mom. I'm not in control of your money. Do what you want. But playing the gap fill to the downside today, it feels like a uniquely weak position. If anything, I think the play today is to have the patience to wait to see if maybe we get this breakout at 58.20. We push up, come down, base there, go long at that point, and then try to ride it up to 58.50. And if we really get going this afternoon, we could be talking 58.80. I think I'm not by any means interested in taking a bearish trade today, because the news is legitimately bullish, and the price is legitimately bullish. And if I look at the medium term, the 10-minute is now bullish. The 30-minute and the 4-hour are all bullish. 10-minute, it's testing. 30-minute, 4-hour, like, it's just, if we were to assign random weightings to all the various things we care about, the bulls are better off right now than the bears. So if things turn, whatever, they turn, and I'm not riding it that way. But I'm waiting for things to improve on the bull side to try to take that particular trade. Does not seem worth it to short this. I would be happy to buy again should it gap close, but there's no way I'm sitting in front of. Oh yeah, I 100% agree with you. I 100% agree with you. All right. Well, that's pretty much it. So first of all, obviously, a shout out to Public, pinned to the top of chat in the description of the video. Other than that, I'm just saying, wait for this range. We had a fake out breakout right at market open. We had a fake out breakdown around 10:30. And other than that, we are perfectly range bound. Today is a day of patience. Maybe we get a big continuation. Maybe we don't. No one knows. No one has that crystal ball that's going to tell you what's going down in the market. So patience, patience, patience. Wait for it. I would say, instead of driving yourself nuts and watching every single minute bar of the day, set an alert on whatever your charting software is on your phone, whatever it is. You have a breakout alert, breakdown alert, and beyond that, go live your life, enjoy the sun, do what you need to do. But obviously, special shout out to Public. Always happy to be partnered up with them. And folks, if you're not on it yet, you're a crazy person, pinned to the top of chat in the description of the video. Make sure to use that link, because you're going to start off at a higher rebate tier than you would if you just normally downloaded it. So you're going to have a little bit of advantage. And once again, free to download, free to sign up, free to check out. We will be posting an update video later on today, and that's going to come out around 7 p.m. Eastern, right after market close. And then we're going to be streaming once again tomorrow morning, but we're going to start early tomorrow because we have the inflation report coming out tomorrow morning. So lots going down. Like I said, today I'm seeing a lot of green on the board. Intraday, we're not seeing trends yet. Maybe it's just choppy all day, or maybe a little bit later on in the afternoon, we do get the nice trend. But I'm telling you, if you're watching SPX, look for that breakout and hold of 58.20, because that's from an options perspective where the bulls really gain control in the short term. And it's when I would expect the delta flow to actually start to improve, rather than like right now look messy and just it doesn't agree with the Mag 7. So this, unfortunately, today is very rapidly turning into a game of patience. And you just got to have that. But just be ready. Just be ready. That's what I have for you. Shout out to Public. If you want to trade with me, join up in the Discord. Other than that, best of luck for the day. I appreciate all the good vibes. I hope you guys are making a shitload of money, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.